I'll go around and stuff. See if this is going to record. And today's episode is about socialism, communism, and I don't like to work. Let me start off with saying, first of all, you, me, we all, human, we're just a species on this earth, just like any other species. From ants to birds to tigers and lions, oh my. We're just one of the species on this earth. I don't think the universe cares one way or the other whether there's any species on this earth or not. And we, because we think we sit at the top of the intellectual chain here on earth, are somehow different than all these other species on earth. Work, communism, socialism. Um, What do animals, all animals, insects, you name it, I don't care, fish, fowl, whatever, what do they need to survive? They need food, they need shelter from the storm. I mean, it's not an extreme hot environment or not an extreme low environment, something that they can exist in. And they need water, food, shelter, and water, and that's basically it. And pretty to some extent tribalism. It helps to form groups, and that's for self-defense, for survival. And finally, underneath all that, if I say food, clothing, and violence. Violence is prevalent everywhere you look around in nature. One animal is eating another animal all the time. Okay. Why are we so different from them? Why do we think? Why do you think you're so different than them? You're not. You need the same stuff. You need shelter from the storm. You need food. You need water. And you need some kind of protection, grouping. Okay. How do you get those things? Once upon a time, you could live out in the middle of nowhere and nobody owned the land, and you could gather up your own firewood. You could figure out how to make fire. You could make your own fires. You had to tend your own fires. You had to learn how to make fire, but you could have heat when it was cold. Food. You could go to the streams and catch fish. You could shoot or kill rabbits or deer. You committed acts of violence to get the food you need, or you could grow your own. Okay, water. Indoor plumbing hasn't been around for more than 150 years or something. So if you found a water spot, you tended to live around it so you could get fresh water. But if you didn't, you had to port it from one place to another. Okay, today you've forgotten all that. How much how hard it is to basically survive. Food, shelter, clothing, water, how hard it is to have those things. But we've devised a way, being at the top of the chain, we devised a way. Once upon a time, you traded for things. If you had a skill set, you could trade somebody else who grew and had a skill set that knew how to grow wheat or corn. And if you knew how to make wagon wheels, you could say, I'll make you 3 wagon wheels for 17 bushels of corn. And you say, I don't care. That's where money comes in. Money is an international exchange rate, and it has a basis somewhat based upon your skill set. How much you get paid for your skill set is the money you get. Okay, how does this all relate to basic stuff? I don't like to work. Well, how else are you going to provide yourself with food, shelter, i.e., some warmth in the cold, and some shade out of the beating sun in the summertime, and where are you going to get your water? You don't live near a lake. You're going to have to haul it 15, 20 miles from here to there. You don't have to do that. You can trade your labor, going to work, getting money, And you can pay for all those things. You don't have to grow your own food. You don't have to kill the animals for meat. You don't have to do all that. Okay, so you say, well, I don't like to work. So who's going to take care of you? How are you going to survive? You going to go out in the forest and do all that stuff for yourself? No, you're not. You're going to. We even have beyond all that. I can flip a switch and have light anytime I want. I can turn a tap and have instant water. I don't have to carry the water all around. The light, I'd have to make torches and carry them around if I wanted light when it got dark. It's all whining and moaning, and socialism and communism, well, we'll all be the same. Under socialism, everybody will share food, shelter, and protection. Yeah, well, no communist society has never, they don't work unless they have a big portion of what you want to say is bad stuff, work. Somebody has to work somewhere at some time to make it all go. Whining and moaning, I don't like my job. I don't, why, we've come to the end of capitalism. Capitalism doesn't work anymore. Well, what's going to take its place? What's going to provide you food, shelter, clothing, protection? The flip of a switch and you can watch TV, all of the MTV you want. That doesn't come out of anything. It's got to come from somewhere. And you have to, if you're out in the middle of the woods, how are you going to have MTV? You're going to make your own entertainment? That's what people used to do, but you're not going to do that. You're going to have to pay for it. How are you going to pay for it? You're going to have to work. It seems silly. We have totally forgotten how hard it is just literally to survive on this planet or in this universe. We've simply forgot it. It's not easy. Talk to people who live in Alaska off the grid. It's hard. They spend as much time, you say, well, I have to go to work for 8 hours a day. They probably spend from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed and more just trying to survive. No, they don't pay for money. They go out and hunt and they carry the water and they build the fire and they gather the firewood, all that kind of stuff. You want to do that? It's not feasible really in a city. Think about it. Where's all the wood going to come from? You could search all around and not find a stack of wood big enough to make a fire that would keep you warm. Or food. When was the last time you saw 40 acres of corn growing in the middle of a city? Mm-mm. Where you even have property you could grow food on or kill animals for meat. You don't got it. You got to work for it. Survival, you take it for granted. It's easy. That's one of the basic human attributes is we take things for granted. You're taking for granted how easy your life has been. It should always be this easy. Life's hard. Ask a deer, a tiger, an elephant. Ask a butterfly, uh, a tree. Ask any form of life on this place that you're in. It's hard. A lot of death, a lot of violence, all the time. Getting those basic necessities. This has gone on too long. I'm just preaching to the choir because nobody cares. You're going to hate going to work. Communism seems attractive. Socialism, everything's free. The government pays for everything. We all have universal health care. We all have this. We all have that. At what cost? You're saying socialism, they're going to tell you what your job is. You don't get to pick it. At least under a capitalistic society, you get to pick your job. You say, well, that's not true because look, all I got is a high school education and I can't do but this and that. That's not capitalism's fault. That's your fault. Enough of this. Uncle Ron's stuff today is the 10th of September, 2025. I hope I recorded.